Oh, we're on now. It says live.
There you go. Welcome, everybody. I'm Brutus, and I'm standing in for James. We're doing the personal and social development, red pill personal evolution, stop whining and grow up, and shitlords of the apocalypse. And today we have a rather abbreviated crew. We have myself, of course, standing in for James, who I'm sure does a much better job of this than I do. And we've got Darren as our correspondent from way up north. And we've got Chase as our correspondent from way down south, except he's off eating, so all you're seeing is his camera down there.
He may be back.
So that's it for the introductions. And Darren and I were just shooting the shit about various and sundry things. And I have some stuff that I could go over. I've gathered up some juxtapositions on the way Google and Twitter and Facebook and so forth are handling pedophiles as opposed to how they handle conservatives, or we can just shoot the breeze as we usually do.
Is that what they're doing now? I've noticed a lot of channels I watch now seem to be getting zapped off of YouTube for one thing or another.
Well, yeah. Anything of a slightly conservative bent is suspect.
And I'm still trying to determine if the Las Vegas shooter was a card-carrying Democrat.
He was.
He was? Oh!
Yeah, he was a registered Democrat. 9 out of 10 shooters, mass shooters, are registered Democrats.
And I bet they will not own it one bit. Right?
Well, I mean, in fairness, the party doesn't control what some guy down the street does, but I think that their rhetoric can have a big impact.
Well, I guess it's wrong for you to be a shooter if you're a Republican and, you know, support the military and you're patriotic and whatnot. And, you know, you must be a Republican if you went out and did a mass shooting. But, you know, if it's a Democrat doing a mass shooting and killing a bunch of cowboys, well, that's okay. You know,
well,
you want to spread next to litter the world, right?
Well, there was a lot of people who posted crap, you know, like, oh, wow, it must have been a bunch of white Republicans who voted for Trump. Therefore, it's okay if they got shot. It's a great thing. And
that's what I thought at first. I thought it was a bunch of, I thought it was a rock concert at first. I didn't even realize it was a country music thing.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I became aware of that. And I thought, I started to wonder if I wasn't going to buy into everything. Dave has come up with a whole bunch of conspiracies online on MGTOW Worldwide, and I'm just kind of like, oh, come on, Dave. You know, just not enough news out yet to determine that. And my guess was, wait, this was a country music foray? Then my guess is easily over 80% of the people at that foray are going to be likely Republicans.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if the gunman turns out to be a card-carrying Democrat. No, obviously he has. But their answer is still the same thing. We need more gun control.
Well, the only thing we need guns for, it seems, is to protect us from Democrat or potential Democrat voters who seem to have a much higher propensity towards violence than the rest of us.
Yep. It was the same with the Orlando shooter.
Yeah.
Card-carrying Democrat.
Oh, of course. And not to mention a member of the Religion of Peace.
Yeah. And working for a government agency.
Oh, that's right. He was a security guard.
Correct.
For a government agency. That's right.
So,
isn't that amazing? A card-carrying Muslim Democrat government worker goes in and shoots up a bunch of gay people.
Yep. And somehow it's the fault of the NRA.
I know, but it's the NRA's fault. Yeah.
Here in Canada, we call it the NFA, or National Firearms Association. But, you know, we lobby Ottawa too, but we get ignored mostly.
Yeah, it's hard unless you got a lot of people and a lot of money. I mean, I'm a member of the NRA.
And as soon as this happens, the Liberals in Ottawa start thinking, oh, we need to bring back gun control. They already got rid of the gun registry, and now they're talking about bringing it back. The thing didn't work in the first place, and it never would work.
Well, because criminals don't register their guns.
No, never have. And, I mean, the police pull you over, they automatically know if you own a firearm or not, just from your registration. So, you know, but the gun registry would check as many as 25,000 times a day. Anytime a police officer pulled you over, even if you don't own a firearm, you're going to get checked through the gun registry, through CPIC, which is the police information database. Now, Quebec wants to keep it because they got a big hard on for guns there. You know, obviously Western Canada doesn't want it. Rural Ontario doesn't want it. Certainly Saskatchewan, Manitoba don't want it.
No.
But the government still wants to push it. And I think Trudeau's honeymoon is slowly coming to an end here.
Well, I hope so. I mean, he's a very handsome-looking man, no question about it. But
looks doesn't govern a country.
Exactly. Despite being handsome, that guy's got some moronic ideas.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he is so far to the left. He's left of Stalin. I mean, if you were to actually put no checks and balances on him, you guys would all be in the gulag in no time.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. I hated his dad. In fact, just about everybody hated his dad. And Pierre Elliott Trudeau was as pinko socialist as you could imagine, right?
Right.
Always rubbing shoulders with Fidel and other little tin pot dictators and shit, taking trips to China. Nothing new there as far as the Trudeau family goes. During World War II, he was heavily against conscription. And although they say he did serve, he was known during that period to go around and protest. He'd be riding around on a motorcycle wearing a German army helmet during World War II. So, anyways, in the 60s, when all the hippies and the new waivers and heavy peace dude types got to be a good number, he rolled in with what they called Trudeau mania. And his first 4 years was a severe turnaround in the way Canada worked. We went from being basically British subjects to Canadian citizens, and we went from a almost U.S. style free market economy to suddenly this, social democrat model. State run this, state run that, government this, government that in your life everywhere. Where previous to that time, we didn't have the government much in our lives at all, except for certain things, like the healthcare system.
Right.
But now they got their fingers in everything.
Right.
And if their fingers aren't in it, they'll make sure that the provinces do it for them. The provincial premiers.
Right.
And that's usually, especially in the case of Ontario, Kathleen Wynne, the Lesbo Dyke Premier of Ontario, with her anti-man, in general, everything. She's an amazing piece of work. Can't wait to get rid of her in 2018. We got springtime. She's trying to buy her ass out now by offering to put minimum wage up to $15 an hour from currently we're at $11.60. So anyways, long story short, I fought long and hard for years and years and years to get him voted out.
Yeah.
And when Brian Mulroney failed on the end of Conservatives and started behaving more like liberal, I had to jump ship from the Conservatives for a while and go to the Reform Party, because Preston Manning was on the mark as to what real Canadian Conservative values were about. So I had to jump to the Reform Party for a bit. And then eventually the Reform Party morphed back into the modern Conservative Party of Canada. It's no longer called Progressive Conservative. We were glad to get rid of the title Progressive altogether. You know what that means.
Yes, I do.
So, yeah. So we're glad to get rid of the Progressive Conservative thing and just get Conservative Party of Canada. That's what put a lot of Tories off originally. Tories are Conservatives here. Just the title of Progressive didn't sit well with a lot of us. No. And I still don't support the Progressive Conservative Party in Ontario. I used to. I don't anymore.
It's a contradiction of terms.
Yep, I stopped carrying their card, and they're pretty much pitching the same shit the Liberals do, but with just different wording. So yeah. I said sayonara. So I don't vote provincially now. There's nothing to vote for. Right. I got two choices. Three choices. I can get Conservatives pretending to be Conservatives. I can get jacuzzi communists in the NDP, New Democrat Party. Yeah. Or I can put up with the usual bunch of liberal thieves and gangsters. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I think was very shocking to people when Trump got elected here is Trump does sit outside of that, outside of the traditional stuff. When you look at our left and our right parties, which aren't really very left or very right. Well, they're very left. They've moved very left.
I think the key word here is they got rid of the establishment politician.
Exactly. He is not an establishment
politician. Yeah.
And one of the things that's really interesting is that 70% of the money that he used in his campaign was from contributions from individuals that was less than $100.
Yep.
So he was literally a candidate of the people, even though he's a billionaire.
He's doing the job for free.
But, well, yeah. And I think a lot of that is because his positions were positions that ordinary people could relate to and understand and appreciate.
What's the president make now a year typically? 250,000, 300,000?
Probably in that neighborhood. Nothing for a billionaire, though.
Yeah, I was surprised because here in Canada, the prime minister's paid roughly 470,000 a year, and that's not including the tax-free perks and all that shit.
Well, yeah.
Traveling perks, what have you. But yeah, roughly around 470,000 a year for the prime minister, and probably about 230,000 for a sitting member of parliament. But here's the catch: 6 years in office, and they get cash for life, right? Index too.
Oh yeah. Well, that's one of the things that happens here is, of course, they get to vote themselves their own raises, right? And they get to vote themselves their own benefits and their own perks. And of course, members of Congress have an amazing retirement plan, right? That nobody else on earth would have. And it's really funny. It's as if that they were working as first responders or under fire or something. And what it is they're in one of the most privileged positions in the nation to start with. They serve there for just a handful of years, and then they get to retire as what would equivalent to be a millionaire. And it's crazy.
Yeah, well, Orville Redenbacher's sister, our premier, is now in the lowest popularity of any party at any period of history in Ontario. And most of our key ministers have decided they're not rerunning next election. Right. And they're basically rats that are jumping the ship, right? As it's sinking. And they're starting to clear out now. Like Deb Matthews has stepped down, and there's Dave Levac is not running again. There's a whole bunch of them stepping down. And they know they're on their way out fast. They brought this province right to its knees, literally. I think they've got over close to 320 billion debt for one jurisdiction in North America. That's not even the size of California in population. So, we're screwed. But anyway, she's going out real quick, especially over the hydro rates. We pay 18 cents at peak wattage here per kilowatt hour, where Quebec, we paid for their damn infrastructure, and they get it for 6 cents a kilowatt hour. And they don't have off-peak or on-peak times, right?
Right.
Insane,
well, yeah, electric rates are a huge deal, especially in the north. I mean, around here, they're 22 cents a kilowatt hour, which is devastating.
Yeah. And, businesses are shutting down here for that reason. They can't afford the hydro bills. People are losing their homes because they can't afford the damn hydro bills. And they brought out some programs to give some people, and I got to thankfully say it's a good thing I switched to LEDs when I did. Because do you know what Sheila pays a month now for hydro? Zero.
Oh, nice.
And she gets a rebate program. They were charging her, they were giving her a rebate of $60 every 2 months. But now that they're running it monthly, so she gets a $30 rebate every month, and she's already got a credit of 34 some odd dollars in the account. She's paying zero. We haven't had an electricity bill for 4 months now. But
that's awesome.
But I'm not counting on it lasting forever because Kathleen Wynne will tell you to do anything to get into office. And once she gets into office again, she crank it back up.
Oh, of course.
Or pull the plug again. The biggest problem is for people in Northern Ontario. Northern Ontario, hydro is just crazy. And the other thing they've added on is delivery charges. Like, since when does hydro have to be delivered? It doesn't have to be pumped. It doesn't have to be compressed. It doesn't go through a pipeline. It's current, for fuck's sakes. It goes on its own flow.
Well, that's what they do. When they say 22 cents around here, it's they combine a delivery charge plus a kilowatt hour charge. But when you combine the two, it comes to 22 cents, which is the only thing higher than here in America is actually Hawaii.
Yeah.
Every place else gets.
But it's offshore, and that's not surprising.
I noticed that Chase is back. We should welcome him back. Hello,
There he
sir.
is.
How was your dinner?
Oh, it's sitting right now, just cooling off. Come to find out, my mom went to a luncheon and she's not hungry, and I was treating her for heartburn.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, if she was eating my cooking, it would be fatal heartburn. So she's lucky.
Oh my shit! Wow.
If it was my cooking, she would have been passed out for a couple of hours, like myself and Sheila.
Yeah.
That's
Thanksgiving
regardless. Yeah,
But,
that's
yeah,
regardless.
I flake out after turkey. She went to bed first, and I just 15 minutes later I started feeling the hit, and I said I'm joining her, so I went to bed too. But
Okay.
but back to the hydro thing there, Brutus. Most people up north, because it's in the Canadian Shield, and you know that demographic, it's mostly hard plate, granite rock, and whatnot. There's no way to really run pipelines through.
No.
And if there is a natural gas supply, it's being delivered by truck or some other means to a local station that compresses it and sends it forward through a line system. But most people up there heat with baseboards, wood stove, or oil, or a combination of those three.
Right.
Sometimes in conjunction to offset the other, especially since oil costs a lot and the electricity ain't much cheaper either. So a lot of people up there are burning wood stoves.
Yeah.
And typically in Ontario winter, you need about 10 cords of wood to heat your home, an average size home. And a lot of people turn the electric heat thermostat down just for those periods when, say, you didn't wake up in time to throw a couple more logs into the fireplace or whatever. Then you don't totally freeze to death either, right? So the electric kicks on, or the oil, or whatever. Or we have
freezing, yeah.
And now, particularly the city of Elliott Lake, we get all these enviro Nazis now saying, "Oh, well, all the smoke coming out of the stacks and whatnot, it's annoying. It can't be good for our health, blah blah blah." And we want the city to stop it, but just about everybody up there burns wood.
Well, of course they need to.
And we got more damn wood than we know what to do with. There's all kinds of deadfall everywhere, and there's lots of standing dead trees you can cut down too. So there's no shortage of firewood. Hell, you can order it by the truckload and have it dropped in your driveway. You just need a log splitter and a chainsaw. You're in business,
Exactly.
But they now the city's thinking about it. I hope they don't, because if they do, that'll kill any consideration I have for going to Elliott Lake. I'll try Blind River or something. Because if anything,
the downsides of democracy is what I call moral hazard.
Yep.
It means that in a democracy, me and however many of my closest friends can go vote for or pressure for a policy that does not even affect us. Other people have to pay the cost or the price or the penalties associated with that policy, and I'm off scot-free.
I'm not even sure if I like democracy anymore. I think I want to be a benevolent tyrant.
Yeah, I favor a concept, some form of aristocratic situation.
The King Brutus.
It makes no sense to me that people who can't find America on a map can be persuaded to go vote this way or that way. Or one of the programs that they have in like Massachusetts is they go around and they pick up people in mental hospitals, right? And they tell them how to vote, but they get a day out, right? Or one of the big things that was happening, I think, in Minneapolis at one point with Al Gore's campaign is they were picking up homeless people, right? And giving them free cigarettes for them to vote for him. And this is stupid. That's not how you run a country. I mean, think of it this way. The President of the United States, senators have the ability to destroy the world. Okay? These are people who have the ability to destroy the world. You don't turn the decision on who that person is loose in the hands of a homeless vagrant that you picked up and gave a pack of cigarettes. Yeah. It's stupid.
Well, when I was going up through school, I mean, we were expected to know geographically all the Canadian provinces, all their capitals. Then we also had to know the states too and all their capitals.
Yeah.
And I doubt the kids coming up now know that. But I know a lot of the American kids are not on the ball with that either. In fact, I'm surprised to learn that they don't really get enough history at all. Um, ask a Canadian kid here now, oh, where's the United States? They used to say, well, it's south of here, over the border. Just drive down to Buffalo, 45 miles away, and boom, you're there. You're in the United States. Or whichever, you know. Now, if you said it to them, they just say, I think it's that way.
Yeah. Well, we have created a lot of different problems, but the net of it is that we have a lot of problems because of the fact that democracy is not a very solid system. Hey, we got Joara joining us. How's it going, sir?
Where's everybody?
There he is. I'm
Good
looking
to see you, sir.
It's just hey, is this gonna be broadcast on YouTube?
Yeah, it is. You want to say hi to your fans?
No, I can't ask you what I was gonna ask you then if it's gonna be on.
Well, go ahead and ask.
We're going to turn off at 10 and stay on for a couple minutes afterwards, just not live, and you can ask anything then.
Oh, okay.
If you don't want it to be on the air. We were just discussing the merits or dismerits of democracy, and I'm arguing against democracy. I think we should have aristocracy.
There's a guy over the last month. He thinks that our women brought us down when we allowed them to work, gave them the right to vote. You know, then they voted policies that benefit them. That was like part of the problem. And then also creating Mr. Government.
Yeah. I think he's right.
Take care of their children so that they could screw us. See, in antiquity, they only had us to depend on, so they had to cooperate. They couldn't be mouthy, or else we would get rid of them and then they die.
Well, I gotta be honest with you.
Now that they have government, now that they can work, now that they have voting rights.
I'll offer that. I'll still keep a few politicians on hand, and I'll give them some direction on policy. But if they start a war or a conflict, they go.
Exactly.
And
well,
they go,
the
and we put them on a deserted island, and we give them the best of the best that we got, and we watch it on closed circuit television and say, may the best man win, and let them duke it out.
Well, see, that's kind of the point, is that democracy at every level creates a moral hazard where a person can have an authority to do something for which they don't pay the price. I can vote myself a heaping helping of your paycheck. That's dumb. Okay? You can't run, in the long run, any civilization like that. And of course, Joara brought up the female vote, and it is true that if we take a look at the way women voted, not a single left-winger would have been elected nationally in this country since women were given the right to vote, if they did not have that right. It has always been swung left by the women. That is true.
Look, we allow them in the workforce, and now overall they're making more money than us, doing better than us, and then essentially they've almost become the man.
Well, yes and no, because here is where it kind of breaks down. How shall I say this? There are differences between men and women, and those differences get reflected in their career choices and also in the abilities that they choose to develop. Now, some women are very bright, brighter than most men, and they can learn to do things like calculus and shit like that. Or some women are very fearless in the way men are, and they will work as electrical linemen. But what has happened for women being paid more than men really is a question of that women are being, the type of jobs that women are doing is being valued higher. But the fact of the matter is, if men were to leave the workforce, almost all your engineers are men. We live in a highly technical society. You know, I work as an engineer. The kind of stuff I do is very complicated by most standards. You could probably find one person out of 2,000 or 3,000 that can even have a prayer of doing what I do, and none of them are women, right? If the men walked off the job, the society would collapse because all of their hard jobs, the
I'm saying
engineering jobs, the science jobs, the electrical linemen that put the wires back up after a storm comes, and all this other
sanitary,
shit,
road works, everything.
all that shit is done by men. The core infrastructure that makes society work is still all done by men. Women outnumber men as lawyers. They outnumber men as middle managers. They outnumber men in a bunch of places, college graduates and stuff. But you look what they graduated with. They got degrees in fucking psychology, and now they're working as a social worker making 27 grand a year.
Yeah.
Well, which would you rather vote for? Someone like me or Dianne Feinstein or Nancy Pelosi?
I'd vote for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Because if I ever got a hold of the reins of power, there'd be some serious ass kicking going down. I'll tell you right now.
But, women didn't want to be in the workforce. Women were forced into the workforce against their will.
Yep.
And a lot of women did not even want the right to vote.
Nope.
There were a lot of women out there. The opposition to women having the right to vote was not from men. It was from women who felt that it would destroy the family dynamic to have a situation where the husband would be voting one way and the wife would be voting another.
Yep.
There were a large number of women out there who didn't like that. Also, women were painfully aware of the fact that men's right to vote, most men in America did not have a right to vote until almost maybe 20 years before women got the right.
That's right. Well, good point. 60% of the troops that fought in the First World War didn't have the right to vote.
Exactly.
But they were given the burden of
task because they didn't own property. A guy who was renting an apartment and was raising his family in an apartment didn't have a right to vote.
That's right.
It was only if he was a property owner, and that was not most people. And so women, when they finally got the right to vote, they knew that that would come at the price of going to war, because that's how men got the right to vote. What happened is men went off to war to fight wars at the behest of politicians that they had no right to vote for or against. And then, they came back and they said, stop it, man. If you're going to send me off to get turned into cannon fodder, to get my legs blown off, my arms blown off, to come back blind, I should have a right to vote, damn it. And so that's how most men finally got the right to vote, was by getting blown to smithereens. Well, women were aware that the right to vote came at the price of the potential of being blown to smithereens, and they didn't want any part of it. Yep. And in terms of working in the workforce, it was the same thing. Most women felt they had a pretty good deal as housewives. Even if they didn't have the greatest material success, most men were not horribly abusive assholes. They loved their wives. Otherwise, they wouldn't have married them in the first place. And they did the best they could for their wives. And so they were forced into the workforce.
I used to go to a lot of social events and shit like that. And there'd be a lady there that was a common housewife. She just, was there with her husband, of course. And, she'd choose to stay at home, raise her kids, and look after them, see them off to school in the morning. And quite often, some of the other ladies, more liberated ones, would often ask her what she does for a living. She says, I'm just a homemaker and housewife. And they'd really frown on her for it. Like, they're vicious towards her.
Well, yeah.
And she'd be almost in tears wondering why. And I'd say, they hate you because you're a tradcon.
Well, the housewife was traditionally the social glue of America that helped make America great in the first place. Yeah. I mean, you never really think about it, but if you go to any park in America, other than the ones that were built during the Great Depression, most of these parks were built by housewives.
Yep. I agree with that.
Hospitals were built by housewives.
That's right.
They provided the community support, all of the shit that was needed to make a community run smooth, so that everybody knew everybody, kids were safe, everybody knew if some asshole who was going to be dangerous to kids moved into the neighborhood. That's what women did. And they made sure that kids were raised as they should be, and the whole 9 yards. They did a great job, and they helped make America a great place to live.
Well, but the hospital down the street that saved my ass from a heart attack started by a woman.
Housewives.
Dr. Nora Henderson.
Yeah, housewives built a large portion of the real infrastructure that made America what I would call pleasant to live in.
But is that surprising, though? Is it really surprising when you consider that women do most of the nurturing jobs? have always appealed to things like nursing and medical care and stuff like that. So that's not surprising.
No,
And that's
what's
not
that,
a bad
Todd?
thing either.
That's part of their nature, though, to nurture. But the thing is, like, they seem to deny that there are sex objects. They are sex objects, and we are sex objects. Because technically, their biological function is to rear children and take care of the family. That's their first priority. They can work, I guess, they probably shouldn't be working according to the men of antiquity, but they can work but that's their primary function, and they just seem to not like that. The fact that they are sex objects, we are success objects. Your job is to take care of the house and the family. Everything else comes second after that, and they just like that.
Well, I think that most women don't have careers. They have jobs, and jobs suck. Just like men don't have careers. They have jobs, and jobs suck. I think that your average woman, after working a job for 20 years, would kill to be a housewife if she had the opportunity.
Well, I'll tell you, I watch a guy on YouTube. He's actually pretty good. His name is JC Desquith. He produces a series called Boss of the Swamp, and he's a homesteader that, well, he was in New York State. He's just moved to his old family cabin in New Hampshire, and he's rebuilding the old cabin. And he's quite enjoyable to watch. He's got his sidekick dog, Frankie. And one day he's discussing the mindset of a homesteader or somebody that's living off grid. And he says, people work all their lives doing a job they hate for retirement they didn't want.
Yeah.
He said, the society tries to stamp you out to go in a specific direction down the same channel. And that wasn't him. He was determined by the time he was 18 years old that he wasn't going to follow the same path, and he's going to live on his own and be more self-sufficient and all that stuff, which he did. He's about the same age as me now, 52, 53. But he just moved back to New Hampshire to his old family cabin, so he's rebuilding that. He goes by Boss of the Swamp, and he's got a pretty interesting perspective on life. You can check through his channels. He's really good too. You know what? He's just as he's probably a simple guy, but he's about as an intense thinker as you are, Brutus.
Poor bastard.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I wish that on anybody.
Yeah. His channel is actually pretty enjoyable, Boss of the Swamp. But
he has to be wise, because if you think about it, I saw an interview on TV after one of those hurricanes, and the lady was like, "Oh, I worked 2 jobs for 30 years to pay for this house and everything in it, and it's gone in 2 minutes." So it's like there has to be more than life than to build up like a home, cars, and all those things. That woman would have been better off living in a small apartment, saving 30% of her income. Then when the storm came, she would have been able to afford to stay in a nice hotel during the storm, like my friend in Florida was able to do. And he came back, and it was like, because not all rich, but I'm just saying he was living within his means. So when the government says leave, this storm is coming, he can go. He can fly out, he can leave. He doesn't have to stay there and ride it out. But like some of these people, like they made like their homes, their life, everything they live for. You making everything
yeah. Well, this is why too, Gerard. I told you you're going to start living for you instead of everybody else. You have to think about yourself at some point. It's okay to be good to other people, to help other people, but if it's an anchor around your neck, it's time to get rid of it and just start living for yourself. That's all you can do. That's not being selfish. It's survival. It's self-perseverance.
And Darren, I'm going to try to ride it out and see how it turns out. Brutus doesn't really know about it, but my mom talked me into buying this home that I can't.
Oh yeah, I know where it is. It's out there in New Jersey somewhere.
Yeah, with all the land and stuff. This is way too much. But I'm gonna try to ride it out, But some of my friends want me to sell it and run off with the money.
Look, I looked at that place on Google Maps. I looked at the satellite photos of your place. This is maybe a year and a half ago. And what I noticed is you have a lot of nice flat land there.
Yeah, it used to be a store. It was two lots. It was a lot for like a home, and then there was like some kind of store, like mom and pop convenience store. They tore the store down, but like when I send you the link and you can see the house online, you can see like an outline where the store used to be. It's shaped like a rectangle. And it's just like a lot of damn land. It's a garage that's like half an acre away from the house that looks like a house. But it's a garage.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was good that my mom like set it up to help me get in and make sure everything was approved and all that. And the house was paid for in cash, and I'm pay them each month and everything. But it was just too much because I was like right in the middle of building things with like the traveling, you know.
Well,
At one time I was going to Atlanta like twice a week. Living it going anywhere. I could be in Virginia Beach next Wednesday, and like so now it's like, you know, I can't really go like where I want to go, how I want to go. Basically, I put my trust in them because I'm like, but it's like I'm sinking and nobody's coming to rescue me. It's crazy. I guess I literally thought if I let my family buy a house, that if I got in some kind of trouble or needed a car repair for my kids, man, they could step up.
Damn.
They just don't turn their heads. So I'm gonna try to ride it out. I really did it. I knew it was a bad move, but I did it because I thought it would help me get a girlfriend. Because like when I was dating elite, we were like millionaires, like real estate gurus, a couple of doctors, dentists and stuff. When they would come to the city and see my small apartment, like they weren't. So I was like, well, now no woman has an excuse. I know it's like superficial and stuff, but sometimes like a woman who's making hundreds of thousands and you got a small apartment. I mean, she worked hard so that she wouldn't have to struggle. So why would she want to, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, but having a house, any property that you own on your own, puts you easily in the top 20% of men. Right there. There's no question about that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, especially since you own it mortgage free, that's like easily in the top 3% of men.
Yeah, well, they pay cash for it, and I pay them rent each month, and you know I'm fixing it up and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
that's why I can't get out of it. Because if it was the bank, I would have been like, you know what, this is too much. Sell it, and then the property tax would come out of the mortgage. And I would have been able to leave better, but like. Everything is in my name. So what I did was I told my mom, I was like, why don't you go to a lawyer and I'm gonna give the house back to you free and you can sell it or rent it. She won't do it. So it's like she's trying to.
I'll give you a secret for getting money out of that place. And this is something that I tell people. People misunderstand homes because they think of it in terms of a commodity that people buy and sell today. Because we kind of imagine that the way things are is the way things have always been. But it used to be that a person's home was where they did their work. And that's why it was okay for women to work. If a woman was a seamstress, she was a seamstress out of her own damn house, right? So that didn't take her away from family responsibilities. Well, your home also, historically, because up until basically the 1950s, the overwhelming preponderance of Americans literally lived on a farm, okay? Your home needs to produce the food you eat. So a townhouse doesn't count as a home. But what you've got nice, beautiful, flat land. You could easily grow 70-80% of your own food on it. Or if you didn't want to, if you wanted to do other things, you could go make a bunch of 4-foot by 8-foot raised beds and make it into a community garden that people paid you $20 to rent one of those 4-foot by 8-foot spaces per season. And you could make a killing every season with how many 4-foot by 8-foot beds could you fit on that place to make a community garden?
A guy pulled up like a couple of months ago and I told him no, but I had talked about that to some other people. The thing is, it's only fit, the land is only fit to grow on a certain amount of months out of the year. And then he was telling me that there's some technology where you can grow stuff inside and all that stuff. But it's not like all year round. It'd be like
It's fine. You can still grow a lot of stuff on that land.
And best of all, if you want your back garden area all tilled for free, just tell the FBI where you hid all the bodies of your opponents. They'll dig it up
Exactly.
for you. Yeah. You'll have that land tilled in no time, ready to plant.
Yeah.
But it was so many things I didn't even think of, like cutting the grass takes like 2 days.
Oh yeah, cutting the grass is a huge pain in the ass. That's why turn it into food. Growing grass is a total waste of space. You can grow from easily, and down where you live, because you're right on the coast and stuff, not that far from the coast. You're talking easily. You could be planting broccoli and stuff like that in March, and you can grow 2 crops of it every year. Same thing with cabbage, cauliflower, all that jazz, spinach, etc. The only stuff that you have to wait for summer for is stuff like tomatoes and cucumbers and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but you can start them indoors in the winter.
Yeah, you can grow all your own potatoes and stuff like that and just put them in the freezer for the year.
No, you can grow potatoes in a plastic barrel.
Yeah, so he has plenty of land out there to grow most of his own food, and that way he doesn't have to buy food anymore, and that way he's saved enough money that he can pay his parents.
Yeah, he'll still have to buy meat and stuff like that, but
unless he raises chickens.
There's never any danger of losing a place that was paid for in cash. It's just the only problem with me personally is it's just less money in my pocket. I'm used to $1,000.
Well, that's one way to do it. Like, I don't mind a little front lawn grass and stuff like that to cut, but as far as I'm concerned, the backyard is the garden.
Yeah, raise your own food, use it to offset your food bill. Do it efficiently. Use like the square foot gardening method so that you're doing it efficiently. And you can do fine. You can grow thousands of dollars worth of food, and if you want to, you can even then go to the farmer's market and make hundreds of dollars every weekend in the summer just growing your own shit.
You can even get a shitload of what do they call that crap? The red clay pots. You can get those dirt cheap at flea markets and shit like that. You can grow green peppers out of those. You can grow onions, anything, and just have them sitting on your back porch with a bit of sun, and they'll work.
But I heard some people
save your land space for bigger stuff.
But I heard some people on YouTube saying that it's illegal in certain places to grow your own food. Like somebody in Florida was saying something like that.
Well, certain subdivisions and stuff, that's true, but it doesn't look like that's the case where you live. I think you're allowed to grow your own food.
So
even if it were you are, the worst they can do is tell you to pull it out for the most part. For one thing, a lot of people don't understand every bylaw, and half the time they can't enforce half the bylaws they got anyways. And so by the time they finally figured out you're growing anything or whatnot, they'd probably go, well, you're not supposed to be doing that. We'd rather you stop. But that might be a long time coming. It may never happen at all,
Yeah, I used to live in a place that had one of those rules. We're only allowed to grow ornamental shit. And so, of course, I grew my potato plants. Since a potato is grown underground, and since most of these people are city slickers and dumb as hell anyway, they wouldn't know a potato if it hit them upside the head.
Exactly.
I grew all my own potatoes, and they never said a damn word.
Yeah, if you did above ground crops for sure,
Yeah.
But plant some low lying crops, do some squash or something like that, something that just sits on the ground, right? Flat.
Carrots.
For all they know, you got a big creeping vine out there, and that's it.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of rumors floating around in the internet about restrictions on collecting rainwater, growing gardens, doing this, doing that. But largely, I don't hear too many situations where the state can actually enforce it or do. There's people that have been doing things for years. Like, we still got people in Hamilton that raise chickens in the city. You're not supposed to, but they do somehow.
Yeah, they just don't have a rooster.
They just don't get a rooster. Exactly. Something that advertises at 5 o'clock in the morning, Yeah, sure. You're going to annoy neighbors, but you just get a bunch of clucking hens. That's it.
Yeah, and you can raise your own chickens in just a little chicken tractor thingy. And one year I raised 14 of them in a little 8-foot by 8-foot thing, and then I spent one weekend slaughtering them all and putting them in the freezer.
Yep.
But they were big. Those 14 chickens were not like 14 chickens you buy at the supermarket. They were.
They don't have to be for it all. They still lay eggs. They still get broody.
Yeah.
You can side it with a wooden egg or a solid stone egg or whatever, stick it in the nest, and they'll start getting in the mood. Yeah.
So have your own eggs.
When I got this place, a husband and wife lived in one room. The other room was a guest bedroom. There's a basement with a private entrance, and then the kids' parents lived in the loft department upstairs.
Yep.
So you're upstairs when the thing is off, but I probably can even grow some stuff up there. I mean, for the year-round thing when it gets, 5.
Right. Well, it's pretty easy year-round to grow greens inside. Things like mustard greens and stuff like that, collard greens. I've successfully grown those inside.
Another thing to do too, Joara, if you got a bunch of old incandescent light bulbs in your house, take them out and just put them in a toolbox for spares and put in a bunch of LED bulbs. Now they're not the swirlies. I'm not talking about the old swirlies and stuff like that. Those things suck. Plus they're full of mercury. But I'm talking about LED lighting, because you can burn 6 to 8 watts per kilowatt hour in an LED light, as opposed to burning 60 watts an hour in a standard light bulb. Take, for example, I'm sure you can see it here, this lamp. Okay, that's just a 40 watt equivalent. It's only burning 6 watts an hour.
And that makes it very cheap to grow vegetables inside with artificial light.
I'm gonna show you the bulbs.
And it gives off a very warm glow. It's not a cold white light like you get from fluorescent lighting. It's a very nice warm glow. Nice, comfortable, homey feel. But they save you a lot of money.
Yeah, those
those
compact
things,
fluorescents, those suck.
These LED bulbs, for the small investment you make, they'll last up to 12 years. They got no mercury. They're much more safer to handle. They don't burn as hot, and you use much less wattage, even less than the swirlies. Yeah, you need to jump.
My mom brought them because she was like, "Well, they're guaranteed to last for 5 years."
They lie.
Well, an LED will last you 12.
I don't use them because they're too bright. But you said use these around the cauliflower or whatever.
Well, you can. Compact fluorescents are not generally very good for raising food. You want the long bulbs in shop light fixtures, lowered close to your growing things. But the LED bulbs do better.
Yeah, I don't think the swirlies give off much in the way of ultraviolet light either.
No, they don't really do very well. They make the ultraviolet light, but it gets filtered by the white stuff.
Well,
I'm gonna show you the loft.
Oh, cool.
Where I might grow some stuff.
Hey, is that staircase I saw there like an insta abortion technique there?
Man's got to do what a man's got to do.
There you go. Oops.
But that goes down to the basement where he stores the dead bodies before he buries them in the garden.
This is the room.
Oh wow.
Chase must be chuckling because his picture shows up every now and again. Nice car dash, by the way.
I think he's eating Doritos.
Jeep Cherokee.
He's making a lot of crunching noises earlier. I think it was eating Doritos.
Ah.
No, I can't have Doritos anymore.
Probably best to avoid them anyway.
Yeah.
I like a few now and again, but that's more Sheila's thing. Yeah. Although I love corn chips, I do.
Yeah, me too.
I like good corn chips.
I shouldn't eat those either, but
I like Santitas. When I was running the stateside, I'd buy bags of Santitas tortillas all the time.
Okay.
And had a pretty hot Mexican chick on it too,
All right.
No, I like the way those senoritas dress with those loose and fluffy blouses and stuff like that. Oh, that's pretty short.
Oh, look who we've got.
Is this thing on? Hello?
Yeah, yes, it's on.
Video, James. We made it work, damn it.
Hey guys, how's it going?
The hot dog team is back. How you doing, James?
I saw that you were live. I had to jump on.
Yeah, certainly. Glad to have you. How was the night shift?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was beautiful. It was a wonderful experience. I recommend it every day. Better than an orgasm. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, making those big sales, are you?
Oh God. I'm gonna pour a drink. I'm joining you from my laptop in the living room. So.
Oh, no problem. Well, we're here, Brutus. Back a while ago, Chase wanted to ask some questions about starting a business and stuff like that. And I'd like our Atlanta correspondent there to have a chance to jump in and ask those questions and see if we can help him.
I don't know anything about that.
Great idea.
You'd have some insight on that, Brutus, because you've been in the business game for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert on it. I'm not one of those, guys that goes about gobbling up businesses and venture capitalizing, but I've set up a few businesses, stuff like
If
that.
you're planning on doing anything in food, get ready for a world of pain.
I have some advice. Don't listen to those fire your boss people. Keep your job and set some money aside and then go from there.
Well,
What I tell people is start a business part-time at night. Use your energy. Okay, so fine. At night, you don't have time to surf the internet. You don't have time to watch TV. Work during the day. Start your part-time business at night. That's what I've done in the past.
But keep your job though, because there's a lot of people on YouTube and they're like, "Oh, I heard your boss."
the other thing, too, when you start a business, you got to learn to cut costs.
Yeah. It's always easier to cut costs than it is to bring in additional revenue.
Absolutely. You got to salary yourself for sure for the first little while. You pretty much got to limit yourself to what you live on, etc., and how much you spend. If you don't do that, 9 times out of 10, you'll fail every time.
What kind of business are you looking to start?
If my bandwidth ever gets right, of course, I talked about bail bonding, but that's a huge financial undertaking. But I just need something where I don't care if I stay 12 hours, 14, 16 hours, as long as I own it. I don't give a shit how long I stay. 18 hours for myself and 8 for someone else. And out of those 8 hours, Uncle Sam gets 2 of them.
Yeah, sure, man. Well, the reason why I jumped into the hot dog business is very simple. There's very little overhead. You sell hot dogs for what? Like I think they run about $60 or 60 cents wholesale. You can sell them for $3 or $4 depending on your location.
Yeah.
Everything after that is cream. You figure you sell 10 hot dogs an hour, you're making $20 an hour. 10 hot dogs is very, very low, very conservative. I think it's a very realistic goal. Trick is it's just getting fucking permits, man. Like there's so much fucking red tape. Like that's the problem. Like, but once you're fucking legal, pretty clear, man. Easy money every day.
And
Georgia's not that bad with red tape when it comes to food service, but you got to be the cleanest motherfucker out there, because the inspectors here are cutthroat. The slightest thing, and they would shut anyone down.
Well, good idea. Lucky for me, I'm OCD, so that's not a problem.
Yeah.
Everything.
I don't want to die from a hot dog.
Me neither.
So you're getting more than half what you put out, James, in profit, right?
Oh, it's 3 times as much. Absolutely.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying. That's absolutely stunning.
Expenses.
That's good.
Yeah.
Really good.
Like literally, you're paying like $120 every 3 months for a commissary service, which is where you like go and pump your gray water and get fresh water, that kind of thing. Other than that, you don't have any expenses. Like, if you're smart, you find a bar or a bar and grill like I found, where they just let you park in their parking lot and serve food to their customers, because serving food is a requirement for them. It's a pain in the ass. They just want to be slinging drinks, right? So they're happy to have you. They're not going to charge you any rent. So, like, it's a win-win. And you just think like that. You go where they ain't, And this place I'm going to, it's like they do live music and all this shit. It's a biker bar. It's going to be awesome. I'm so stoked.
Oh, I was thinking, like I said this before, I thought I'd love to start a grilled cheese stand, because up here everybody loves grilled cheese. It's a big thing here in Canada. And you can build a grilled cheese sandwich for probably under $1.
Yeah.
And throw a couple of pickles on the side or something like that, or whatever. We're not too big in the potato chip thing like Americans do with their fast food, but like a couple of sliced pickles on the side or something like that. Or you can offer additionals like ham slice or mushrooms or anything, just about pretty much, to stuff in with the grilled cheese, and
People love food.
they go hot. Yeah.
Yeah, and mine's always going to be the cleanest in town. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, well, as long as you're doing a head profit. Now, are you limiting yourself in salary as far as like how much you spend towards your business versus on yourself?
No, but I did talk to our mutual friend Chad, who is a tax consultant, as we all know, tax professional, and he gave me some really good advice on that account. So, but basically, I run it as a sole proprietorship up until the end of the reporting year, and then you file as an LLC. And all of your expenses become retroactive, and you can pay your, fees and shit then with the profits you've made up till that point. It's basically the short version. So,
yeah. I'm waiting for the day when Quinn Dawes extends to Canada and I can buy a franchise.
Do a poutine truck.
My thing. Oh, you just left.
We'll offer grilled cheese with Canadian bacon.
Oh, Boo just left. I know he would have been able to answer this thing well, but. Why are the YouTube business advisors so against your regular job? You need that as your base while you're building. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that the business won't work out, but I feel like if you work like 40 hours and then put 20 hours in your business, it's more logical than fire your boss, quit your job stuff. I don't know why start your own business people are against the job. The job is like your base foundation. If you're really serious, you'll do 40 hours on the job and 40, 50 hours in your business.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, it's like studying for school, right? You do 40 hours of school work. You also do 20 hours of part-time work to keep yourself, when you're trying to build yourself up, you put in the extra time. Yeah. I totally get that. My situation is a little bit different. It wasn't really a fire your boss situation. It was more or less, I was living in a political correct hellhole. And
you couldn't stand it. I couldn't either.
More than anything else, it was a desperate escape route. But yeah, so Chase, back to you, man. Like you thought about starting bail bonds. You're thinking you don't want to do that. Is there anything you're passionate about that you think is a type of business that you could really yourself investing your time and life into? That's what opening a business is.
Well, that's the thing. I got to really find that passion because, of course, I like computers, but sadly, when it comes to Georgia, it's a good old boy network. No matter which way I go in IT. So unless I'm just like that expert, that guy, it's not about what you know, it's who you know. So,
have you considered putting on a wig and a dress and marketing yourself as transgender IT guy and capitalize on all the SJWs?
I'm red. This place is red state. They not even playing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you there.
This is red state. They'll tolerate it, but all that SJW stuff, like they kill that here. I mean, I hadn't seen one in Buckhead yet.
I have no idea what that's like. Everywhere I've lived is an SJW hellhole, so that must be very different.
Yeah, you good?
Yeah, Midtown. Yeah, that's SJW Central. That's more liberal. Anywhere from Midtown to Piedmont Park, Ansley, Morningside, that little circle all through there, and parts of East Atlanta, especially Little 5 Points there. Yeah, you could get away with that, but once you stretch out further north or further south, then it's a conservative nightmare.
Yeah, I know what that's like, though. To an extent. Right, but you don't know. Okay, so your thing is you're trying to figure out what you're passionate about.
Right. Because that one thing I will say is that every time I ran into a lot of construction people at my old place, they will always ask, "Yo, where's a vending machine? Where's a vending machine?" Because they did have a little bodega, but it was closed after 5. So, and then all construction couldn't work there until after 5. So I was thinking, yo, if I just had a couple of vending machines downstairs, I would make a fucking mint.
That sounds brilliant. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. Let's go collect your money every day.
Well, some people do pretty good at vending, especially if they get into it early and they got the overhead to buy the machines and stuff.
Well,
Yeah,
that's the
because I don't
thing
want
is
to
you have
run
to
to
buy
lease
the
those
machines.
things. I really don't
And
want to.
assuming they can, if they can get the commodities cheap enough too to stock them with, and bit there for overhead as well, right? Because you might be able to go to Costco and buy boxes of candy bars for a set amount. But
Yeah, you can.
you're going to have to talk on your $25, $50, whatever the hell it is, onto it, and then hope that people use it enough. The
Most
location's
places will
important
charge you
too.
rent for where you put that machine too.
Yep. Very
Yep,
much.
location is everything.
You know what you could do to start out with is just build yourself a damn push cart with like shelves and just sell like chips and fucking Snickers bars and like peanuts or whatever, and just carry that, like bring that around. Like fucking, there's like very little restrictions on that kind of shit. That pre-packaged stuff. People pay tax, like fucking grandma's oatmeal cookies or whatever. They, you know what I mean?
And people want that stuff. We're a consumer society, right? And
Yeah.
people are always going to eat, and people are always going to read newspapers or magazines or whatever. There's lots of things you could do. Like I said, my idea is I'd start a grilled cheese stand because it's such a big thing up here. And I think that would hit off well. Now, James, are you still near the brewery or wherever it was you're setting up there?
No. That deal ended up falling through because I don't know if you saw, I posted the interaction I had with the city permits.
The permit?
Yeah, do you remember that post?
Yeah, but I tried to determine what they were
post.
saying.
Yeah, I copy pasted the email I got from
Was I right?
Permits. It sounded, yeah, I was asking pretty regular questions. I'm like, what is the cost of the permit fee and stuff like that? What is your office hours? And the response I got back is like the person was having a stroke when they wrote it. It did not make sense. Like it was completely disjointed. And it came in at like 1:30 in the morning. I'm like, are you drunk? Like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
Right. I read that shit. Like, wait a minute. That guy, did he do a line before he wrote that?
it was a woman, to the surprise of no one.
I'm like patronage and cronyism in the permit office, right? Okay.
The system as a whole really isn't supportive when you're trying to start something.
What's that? I didn't hear that.
I said the system as a whole really isn't supportive when you're trying to start something.
No.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times, one of the first lessons I learned when I tried to do a business, because I didn't understand the way the world works, I tried my first business. Oh my gosh. I was really young. I was doing mail order product formula sales. Basically, if you wanted to know how to make your own Windex or whatever it is you wanted to make, I would tell you how to make it. And so I wanted to know if this was legal. Well, that's the wrong question to ask. Okay? But I didn't know that was the wrong question to ask. You go see a lawyer and say, is this legal? And he's like, who the fuck knows, right? Do I need any permits for this? No, nobody knows. And the next thing you know, you have 5 million things. I went to the Small Business Administration. I figured my government was there to help me. Oh my gosh, what a disaster. My next business I started by just filing as a sole proprietorship and doing my damn thing and assuming that if anybody thought I was breaking the law, they'd send me a letter.
Yeah, don't get caught in gimmicky things like Amway.
Yeah, exactly. My second one was writing custom software. So I'd write custom software for people. And the biggest thing with that is doing a proper software specification. More so than your business form or something like that.
Are you saying software development is technical?
Well, it was back when I did it. Back when I did it, you had to know how to write software in languages like C without a bunch of libraries to go on. So you actually had to understand things. Nowadays, through polymorphism and inheritance with object-oriented programming, you have a bunch of morons who drag and drop things onto a screen who think they're programmers.
No, I'm shocked.
Yeah. I mean, you could tell. I mean, think of it this way. Back when I got my first PC came with, and now this is an IBM PC compatible. I picked up at Radio Shack. It came with 384K of RAM.
Yes, kilobytes. When you measure things in kilobytes, those are the days.
Exactly. I mean, the computer I had before that was a Commodore 64, and the 64 meant it had 64K of RAM.
Dude, I had the VIC-20. Do you remember those?
Yes, the VIC-20 was awesome.
Oh my God, yes, that was so much fun. Holy shit! Look who's joined.
Who is that?
Hannah.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you.
Hannah
¿Quién es
Montana.
esta niña?
Turn your microphone on.
Yes, Hannah, your microphone's just go to the upper corner at the top of your screen there. Click on your mic.
So, I mean, imagine this. The Geo software that I had for Commodore 64 had a word processor in it, had a spreadsheet in it,
Yep.
all of the shit that you typically need for quote-unquote business apps in it, and it all worked on a 160K floppy and 64K of RAM.
Isn't that amazing? It's so amazing.
Okay?
That is
They're so
ridiculous.
efficient with their coding back then.
Well, that was the thing. I mean, with the things that I code now, and I write software now that goes in embedded systems, a lot of times all that shit has to fit in 8K of RAM or 32K of RAM. And it has to be efficient. So I write that shit in C or I write that shit in assembly language, and I understand intimately how that thing works. Every aspect of its hardware I have to understand intimately and know what I'm doing. Well, but when you take a look at modern software, you download it, 160 megabytes for a damned word processor? What the fuck? And the reason why it's that huge is because they dragged and dropped and they inherited the wheel using object-oriented programming.
Yes.
And what object-oriented programming is supposed to do is make it so that you don't have to reinvent something somebody else already coded. The
Yeah,
problem is
how
when
you
you
get-
inherit that,
Yeah.
you inherit tons of other shit you do not need.
Yeah. Well, it's how you get women into STEM, right? You make it so
Yeah,
easy. Even I can do it.
yeah, yeah. I can't stand
Isn't there a
that
way you can
shit.
scale that shit down?
Well, there is if you wanted to pay actual programmers to write actual code.
Yeah.
But the problem is actual programmers you can't really hire, who barely speak English on an H-1B who graduated the bottom half of their class from someplace in India whose name you can't pronounce. If you want real programmers, you need people who are literate, intelligent. I mean, here's the problem. Certain professions require you to be a top 2%, 3% intelligence person, okay? When you're looking at people in the top 3% of intelligence, there's competition for those people. They could be doctors. They're not going to be lawyers because being lawyers doesn't require that much work, okay? But they could be doctors. They could be scientists. They could be 26 different kinds of engineer. They could start their own business doing something else, whatever. Or they can write software. Those types of people who write that kind of software, and they do exist. They work at places like Cisco, writing the Cisco iOS and shit like that. Those guys are expensive. They're $180,000, $200,000 a year dudes. And they're hard to get your hands on, But most people are not interested in that. They just want something that will work because they're in the business of making money, not making a superior product. They only make the product they have to make the money. They're not going to invest any more in it than they have to out of some sort of pride. And so they're going to get $40,000 a year programmers, $50,000 a year programmers. And guess what those guys do? They drag and drop and inherit the wheel, and it's shittily coded shit that kind of sort of works good enough for government work.
Dang.
200,000 a year dudes.
Huh?
Said 200,000 a year dudes. That's serious.
Yeah, they do.
business.
Well, a lot of people make that. The problem with making that now, here's the benefit of having your own business. Even a hot dog stand. Here's the problem. You make $200,000 a year as a regular employee, your life sucks because you have reached over the thresholds where you can deduct things that you can ordinarily deduct, okay? That is all W-2 wage income, and you get the shit taxed out of you. As a matter of fact, taxes are the single biggest thing you pay in your life when you make that kind of money. You are far better off making less than $100,000 a year in terms of the taxation and just scaling back life a little bit. You're going to do a lot better because it's just such a penalty because they take away your deductions, like your home mortgage deduction goes away, this deduction goes away, that deduction goes away. Pretty soon you can't deduct anything. You're far better off running your own business because what happens is Like, let's say you're in the book writing business, right? And
This is some great advice, by the way.
oh, thank you. If you're in the book,
About the 100,000 versus the 200,000. This is some great advice.
I know, been there, done that, got the T-shirt. so I learned from hard experience. You don't want to do that, but a lot of people don't know any better, and they just get stuck there. But what you do is you get a business, like say you're writing books, right? What you do is you write your book about, I don't know, how to make a solar system. And all of the stuff that you buy related to this solar system, right, that you're writing the book about, is all tax deductible. And all of the trips that you make to the hardware store, your mileage is deducted. Everything is deducted from the money that you make from that book, right? But since you're in the book writing business, it isn't just counted against that book, because all of your book income subtracted from that is all of your stuff related to studying and making books and getting trained. If you're an ordinary person, you really can't deduct, for example, your educational expenses. But if you are in a business of making, I don't know, books about stuff, whatever stuff it is, let's say your next one has to be on music production, and you need to buy yourself a copy of Ableton Live, and you need to buy yourself a copy of Reaper, and you need to buy yourself like a bunch of gear like this shit. You know, I just happen to be in the music production business, you know what I mean, dudes? And as a result, I can have all kinds of fucking gear, and it's all deductible from my taxes, right? So and it's all legit deductible. That's the thing.
I got time. I can do it right now.
And so you're far better off running your own business than making $60,000 than you are working for some guy earning $200.
And fucking hey, dude, like you can buy a snow cone machine for $200 and get that permitted for probably like another $200 and make all the business off that during the summer. Like,
yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I wish I had thought of it 4 months ago. I would have made it killing.
Yeah, but you'll be ready for it next year.
Right? Yeah. There's no restrictions on snow cones at all. Absolutely zero. All you gotta do is just be like, let them know, like, yeah, I'm selling snow cones. And you're like, okay, cool. It looks like Hannah's live.
Yeah, I see that she's not muted anymore.
Subalit kayak apaan? Yuk. Lihat. Belum.
Our friend from Indonesia.
Hi guys.
Hello, madame. How you doing?
Oh, good. I'm working. I'm sorry I cannot go live with you. I just want to listen first.
Well, welcome
for inviting me.
Thanks for joining. You're welcome to listen.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I told everybody we were going to go off being broadcasting at about 10, and it's about 10 past 10. So I figured at this point we could sign off and just shoot the shit if we want, because I knew that Dora had some stuff he didn't want to be on air, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Well, I'm going to hang out and chat. I can go off.
okay, so let me do the sign off then. Hello, everybody. This is Brutus Laurentius.
That's good.
And we're going to sign off the air here from swaggling and posding and being the shitlords of the apocalypse. Have a great night.